Okay, so hi everybody. Okay, so let me start off by introducing myself. My name is Adriana. I am a birth and postpartum doula. I also do overnight care and home management, all within my scope of practice as a doula. I also am the founder and owner of Doula Philosophy, a doula company. Sorry. And I'm practicing in the United States, specifically Massachusetts and Rhode Island a little bit, and also New Hampshire a little bit. By the title of this video, you already know what this video is about. I want to touch on how you become a doula. I have a lot of women come up to me, and men too, who wonder, how do you become a doula? Like, how does that work? Is there a special training? How do you start? How much money do you make? Things like that, things of that nature. So I'm going to touch on it a little bit in this video, and of course follow up if you guys have any other additional questions. So I guess I'll start with, how do you become a doula? I think firstly, before anything, you need to figure out if you're passionate about birth. If you're passionate about birth, if you're passionate about women and children and infants, this is doula career. The doula career path is something that can be a career. It also can be something to fill time, something you do on the side, like part-time. You could pick up one client a year, or you could pick up one client a month, or you can be picking up one client every couple of weeks if that's what you want to do. It really is up to you in terms of how much you want to practice, and it's really up to you. That's it. So yeah, are you passionate about birth? Yeah, sorry if I'm looking down, just looking at my notes on my phone so I can remember everything. So really, childbirth is about birth, of course, about women, about infants, but also about family. Because when you're, as a doula, you're not there just to serve, depending on your scope of practice, of course. But for me, as a doula, what it means to be a doula for me, I'm not there just for the woman. I'm not there just for the infant. I'm there for the family as a unit. That includes siblings, that includes partners, that includes in-laws and grandparents. You're really a resource for the entire family to be able to use in terms of education, support, and advocacy. Because, you know, when a baby happens, when childbirth happens, it really is expanding a family. So it really isn't just about that woman. It's not just about that infant, although that's where a majority of my work is. It's about preparing that whole family. It's about preparing them for this new life, about answering their questions, but also educating them in terms of the times that we're living in terms of the rates of maternal mortality that we're in right now. The fact that the United States, I saw a recent study that said the United States is ranked 55th out of, I believe it was 143 or 134, something like that, countries in terms of maternal mortality, and that's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. So I'm gonna leave it at that. And if we're talking about women of color and black women fare between 3 and 5 times. They're dying at a rate of 3 to 5 times more than their white counterparts, due to implicit bias, racism, lack of attention, lack of understanding, really just implicit bias being a preconceived notion about what it is to be a black woman in our country. And it just, women are dying because people have implicit biases. Health professionals have implicit biases and are not listening to our women when they say that they're in pain, when they say that they think something's wrong with their children, they don't feel right about a certain thing. Women are hemorrhaging, leaving the hospital with hypertension, eclampsia, things of that nature. And I don't want to get too far into it. That's probably for another video. But doulas are the difference, and I'm passionate about that, and I believe that completely, 110%. And that's why I do what I do. So if you're interested in becoming a doula, you really need to educate yourself about what it means to be a doula and what you're in it for, and whether you are a woman who wants to serve women who look like you. If you're open to serving everyone, then that means that you need to educate yourself on the challenges that everyone is facing as a doula. Because what I face as a black woman going in to give birth is not what a white woman faces, which is not what an Asian woman faces. Is not someone who's of high income, not what they face, of low income, what they face, educated, not educated. There's just so many different perspectives and different backgrounds coming into the birthing suite. So, and they all deserve an equal amount of attention, but the attention at times is in different places. Okay, so first, are you passionate? Second, have you done your research? It's really important to do your research in terms of what birth is. Are you ready, willing, and able to deal with what birth is? And birth is not just the actual event, it's pregnancy, it's the childbirth, but it's also the postpartum period, which lasts a year after baby is born. So are you ready to deal with that? Are you ready to be connected with the family up to a year after they've delivered? And if you're not ready for that, that's okay. Some doulas I know stay with families only 6 weeks after. I make it a point to be with my families up to a year after, and that doesn't mean that you're with them every day for a year, unless that's what they want. That doesn't mean that you are like getting phone calls every day after you get a year after baby's born, but that means that you're making yourself available. That means that you are answering questions when questions come up, if you know the answer or if you're confident in your answer. It's also being able to be an advocate for your mom, being able to be an advocate for that family, because they're coming up against a system who already has, you know, a by the book understanding about what health is, and so they're really not, for lack of a better word, paying attention to what women and children and families are really concerned about. I'll leave that at that. So have you done your research about birth? Have you done your research about the different organizations, certifying organizations that there are? And there are a bunch. I bet there are hundreds of organizations that certify and train doulas. You need to find an organization that you agree with the most, that aligns most with what you're passionate about, which is why your research is so important before you decide which organization that you want to organize through, certify through, or train through. Unfortunately, my experience, I ended up training with an organization that I did not certify with, and that's because I failed to do my research beforehand. And when I went into this training, I was the only black woman in a sea of white women, and that was fine. Like that, there was no issue with me being the only black woman in that room, a person in that room. That wasn't the issue. The issue was that I felt like that organization really did a disservice to black women by not recognizing their particular need in terms of maternal health. And I think that in any organization that you decide to certify through, you need to make sure that they are not even paying attention, but that they are recognizing the need in different areas. And the organization that I went through, they did not do that, unfortunately. And I really didn't agree with their scope of practice and their standard of practice, because I felt like they were really only geared toward one demographic, honestly. Which I should have known before I walked in, but I didn't do my research, which is why you need to do your research, because it really is an investment to do the training. It's an investment to go through the certifying process, and you don't want to be more or less bound by an organization after you've already done your training and you've decided to certify with them, and then realize afterwards that you're practicing and it doesn't feel right, because the way you were trained is not the way it actually is out there with the women that you're serving. So it's important to know that. I would also say do your research in terms of other doulas that are in your area and how they're practicing and what their practice looks like, and if there's just what it looks like, what their websites look like. Have a conversation with a couple of them, talk to them. I know all the doulas I've met have been super open to having conversations, have super open to meeting up for coffee, meeting up for lunch, to talk about their work, to teach another doula, to impart knowledge. And so find the doulas in your area that are passionate about what they do and want to talk to you about it. And if you can't find any doulas like that, there's huge wealth of information online and doulas online who are always willing to talk to you. I'm 100% willing to talk to anyone who is interested in doula work and has questions and doesn't really know how to go through the process, which is why I'm making this video. So feel free to email me. I have my email in the description box. Just reach out, start that conversation. And if you if you find someone who isn't willing to talk to you, or just isn't very nice, or whatever the case is, that really just shows you what kind of person they are and what kind of doula they are. Because doulas that I know, the best doulas that I know, are so passionate about their work that they will talk to you about birth in the middle of the supermarket. They'll talk to you at birth at 3 a.m. After coming out of a birth. Our lives never stop when it comes to birth. Birth is always happening, and our clients are always in need, so it never stops. And you need to be prepared for that. So really prepare yourself mentally, physically, emotionally for the ups and downs of what birth is, because it's not always a happy outcome. It's not always you go into a hospital and you come out, or you go into a birth center, or you go into a home birth, and it's always a happy outcome. And that doesn't mean that, mom and baby died. Thankfully, I've never had to deal with that, but there are other forces at play sometimes, whether it's the institution, whether it's midwives, doctors, OBGYN doctors, DCFS, welfare. I've seen it all, and I've done it all, and I've had experience with it all. Mental health, it's hard, it's taxing, and sometimes it's emotionally draining. And so you need to really be able to do that self-care and be prepared emotionally for that task. And sometimes it's a lack of sleep. You're not sleeping for 24 or 36 hours while you're at a birth, or you only get cat naps in between. So you really need to prepare yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually to go through that journey with a woman, and go through it repeatedly, if that's something that you want to do. Okay, so the next thing I would say is, just once you've done your research, once you've decided that once you've found an organization that you agree with, that you feel drawn to, you have this passion, it's still burning inside of you, you really want to do this, you really want to get started, do it. Go to the training. Just do it and take advantage of it fully. There are in-person trainings and online trainings. I'm a person who learns the best in person, and when I can feel the material and practice on a person and hear the person talking and have that be able to have that conversation face to face, even if it's in a group setting, and be taught in a group setting with real people. I'm not an online learner kind of person, but if you are that kind of person, then kudos to you and go for it. If you find online training that you really feel comfortable with, but I really would suggest, for me and for people who learn like me, to go to an in-person training, because that was just there's nothing like being able to practice on an actual person, the other doulas that are in training, practice on their bodies, and asking them and having feedback one-on-one, like, does this feel good, does this not feel good, what does this feel like? Be able to ask the instructor excuse me be able to ask the instructor questions and be able to get feedback and answers in that moment. So I would say, for me, it was necessary for me to do my training in person, but there are online trainings that are great that I've heard, so do that 100%. The next thing is to decide, once you've done that training, whether you want to certify with that organization or whether you want to go through another organization. And some organizations require that you do trainings with them for you to be able to certify with them. So if that's the case, then that's the case, unfortunately. But there are other organizations who will take your previous training and apply it towards your certification. And most organizations I know, there's like a limit or a standard amount of births that you have to do to be able to qualify for certification. So whether it's like 3, 4, depending on whether you're becoming a birth doula or postpartum doula, which is there's but there's a lot of different types of doulas. I'm a birth and postpartum doula, so those are the two that I am familiar with. So just keep that in mind as well. Like I mentioned before, there are a lot of different types of doulas: adoption doulas, abortion doulas, death doulas, and these are all women for the most part, and people who identify as women, and just people in general who want to help in a transition, in a time of transition. And childbirth is a huge transition. Postpartum is a huge transition. And so, yeah, death is a transition, abortion is a transition, adoption is a transition. So these are doulas who specifically train in those areas and who are passionate about those areas and want to help families in those areas. So decide that first beforehand, what kind of doula you want to become. And if you are interested in birth and postpartum, that's generally the way it would go. The last step I have is just practice and train, and whether that means that you are at first a volunteer doula and offering your services for free at first. It really will help you build the confidence, build the technique, build the understanding and just know-how when it comes to navigating hospitals, navigating birth centers, navigating home births, navigating with clients, navigating with families that look different, that operate differently, being able to understand the unit. Really, each experience is very individual, but there are some, and you'll find this in your practice if you do continue to move forward, there are some similarities in terms of structure when it comes to the types of questions that they ask, what they're nervous about, and this spans different demographics, different ethnicities, cultures, races, education statuses. Like, they all have the same questions for the most part. A lot of the questions are the same, but their situations are different. So the way that you might answer it might be a little bit different, or the way you break things down or don't break things down might be a little bit different. And I can talk about more about that if you guys are interested in that. But this is what I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to talk to you guys about how to become a doula, and a birth doula, postpartum doula in particular. And I hope you guys found this helpful. If you have any questions, please let me know. And if you guys have anything else you want me to expand on, please let me know. Follow me on Instagram at Adriana the doula. I have a really great Black maternal mortality series going on there, and we're actually I'm in the last leg of that. I'll soon start doing some birth highlights, some baby highlights, some family highlights, so stay tuned for that. And I am so appreciative of you for being here and watching this whole video. Please leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will check in with you guys later. Bye.